Hi, Shahid. Are you preparing for this? Uh,
Yes, yes, with problem in my network. I think I'm not audible, right?
I cannot hear you.
Actually, your voice is breaking a lot.
Breaking.
I think I got the idea that you said yes to prepare.
Can you post it in the chat box? Are you preparing for this course or not? Yes or no? You can like answer.
Yes.
All right. Okay, Shahid. Um, so, from where have you done your undergrad, graduation, and your postgrad? And is it in psychology?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Your post graduation? North campus, South campus? You must be a junior then.
Not that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, you are our junior. All right. So, uh, all right, Shahid. The thing is, this paper, are you graduated from Kerala? Oh, okay. All right. All right. So you must be interested in the area of research, right? So, if you look at the sample papers, have you like had a look at the sample papers or the not the sample papers but previous years question papers? Anyway, I am sharing my email ID.
He's had a go.
Okay, you have gone through them. All right. So you know the structure of the paper. The structure goes like this. 50%, there are two sections basically. Section A, you have research-based questions. And in section B, they are discipline of psychology. Okay, no one, when we were preparing for it, no one actually told us. So what Bhavya and I did was we actually started going through all these subjects. What are the basics of sociology? And we had like no background either of sociology or of history. So you do not have to waste time on that. You just prepare for psychology. And I hope you have been preparing for NET. You must have given NET JRF paper, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that would help a lot.
exactly. So, in paper two, mostly questions like that would come, and your basics should be clear. All right, and particularly you have to focus on certain areas like of cognitive psychology, social psychology, particularly social identity theory. अच्छे से पढ़ लेना because they would be asking questions from that, and कॉग्निटिव एंड इमोशन कॉग्निटिव में मोटिवेशन एंड इमोशंस दोनों चीजें and statistics as well. Statistics is very important, all right, because RM and stats, because in the paper itself, in the second paper also, you'll have like you would be having many questions from statistics and research methods, and even in paper one is like your RM and stats only.
So
Is
for
that
paper one, when you focus on RM and stats, the particular areas which we have found are quite common in the question paper are from basic statistics. So your mean, median, mode, their properties, where they can be used, correlation. To focus too much on the formula itself, but also on the theoretical aspects of it, like where can you use it, how is it used, just certain basics, their properties. For example, the transition, how uh, linear transition happens for mean, median, mode, standard deviation, all these things. So focus on the theoretical aspect as well, because most of the questions will be based on those properties, and you won't or usually you don't have questions where you have to solve the numerical, and also
Ah,
focus on ANOVA as well,
hello.
because there are a few questions from ANOVA in the first
Hmm.
section of the paper, which is your general research base, and also in the psychology paper,
Acha.
because you will have RM and stats section in psychology as well. And with
हाँ हाँ.
the first section, which is your general
अच्छा.
section, therein you'll also have to focus on the research designs that we have. What are your experimental designs? How do they work? Then also on your sampling, the types of samplings we have. Be clear on each and every one of them because there are certain nuances which may confuse you. And as you go through the question paper, so I think the ones which have been circulated already have the answers marked in them. So you notice that the options are not all that dissimilar. So there might be confusion. So be very clear on each and every type of sampling that we have. And also another aspect which you should be clear on when we talk about this thing, RMN stats is the idea of scales and how and where they are. I think there might be questions regarding, for example, they'll give you temperature in Kelvin is measured on this particular type of scale. So these are the areas we need to focus on a lot for RMN stats. And also in the section A, you also have certain aspects of philosophy. So herein you touch a little bit on sociology, on history, economics, and the only aspect we have.
Should we go ahead or should we wait for Shahid to join? Hello, am I audible?
Right, Shahid is showing that.
Yeah.
Right. So, right, we were talking a little bit about philosophy, right? So you will touch on the basics of it, uh, things which are included in sociology, history, and economics, but at the same time are more towards the philosophical aspect of it. So, there are certain thinkers like Durkheim, Foucault, and Auguste Comte, Plato. Just know the very basic
The
idea
basics.
about these.
But do not waste so much time on that because there would be like hardly 2, 3 questions from that. But your research part, RMN stat should be like very strong. But yeah, you should know the prominent figures.
And just the basic, for example, when we talk about Plato, we say that he was a nativist.
Huh.
And what does this term mean? And who was what? These prominent thinkers.
Yeah.
Plato was a nativist. Aristotle was an empiricist.
Empiricist.
You just know these things. And also, yeah, I think this is more or less what you should prepare for when you prepare for section 1. If you want to add
Any
something.
doubts, Shahid? See, North Campus, they would not have floated the statistics paper, right? Am I right? Because that was the problem we faced. But you would have done statistics in your undergrad, and those are the basics. And whatever questions are gonna come, they're gonna come from the basics only.
Right. So we'll move on to section 2 then, which is
Any suggestions for reading? All right. So, from which book were you referring? You must be referring to A.K. Singh or Kothari for RM and stats. I guess that would have been like suggested to you guys because that was suggested to us. A.K. Singh is a very simple book and it has like almost everything. So for basics, it's the best book.
especially for research design. And so A.K. Singh is a good
And
book.
Minium.
And yeah, for statistics part, Minium is a good book. And also Kothari, I think Kothari is also good. And there is another one for statistics, which is Garrett. So you can either refer to Minium or Garrett. Both of them are good books.
Do you want to note it down? Or is it clear? Or should we type it in the text box, chat box, whatever?
E-copy.
E-copy.
I don't
Wait,
have
yeah.
e-copy right now. Have to look for those because these are such basic books, A.K. Singh and Medium, that we bought the books. So we'll have to look if we can find e-copies. Right now, you might be able to find e-copies because of the whole pandemic. So most of the books have been made accessible, and we'll also see if we can find it and we'll share it with you. Any other question?
Okay, I have shared my email address. All right. If I and you can also share your email address. If I find something, I'll mail it to you. And if you have any queries, you can mail me, right? Okay.
Right. So if we are clear about section 1, we can move on to section 2, which
Section
is
2.
psychology. Right. So section 2 is psychology. So you don't have to attempt any other question. It's a computer-based test. You won't be able to attempt any other section at all. So it's just 100 questions for you. And the psychology part again consists of 50 questions, out of which there are still some research-based questions. So herein you'll have ANOVA as well. Like I found ANOVA quite prominent in the question papers that we have seen for JNUEE. Okay, so we have shared your email ID, right? So besides the research method part, so many questions will come from social psychology. Social psychology, we will have questions from the area of attitudes, social influence, social identity, and keep a good amount of focus on social identity. There will be definitely be questions from that, and not just the surface level. Like have a good look at the theory of social identity.
Yeah. So the overarching area is social cognition, right? So social cognition अच्छे से पढ़ लेना. I guess you would be having Barron. Were you referring to Barron or or any other book for social psychology? Okay. Yeah.
All right. So Barrel is a good book. There is another book. I'll write the name of that particular book, which is also quite good for psychology. And so here in when you are going for this psychology section paper, the focus is being social and cognition. Cognition may you need to focus a bit on Vygotsky. like more than a bit on Vygotsky and Piaget's theory. Then, in addition to cognitive psychology, also focus a bit on the theories of personality that were given by different people like Freud, Albert, Erickson, um, Adler, and the basic theories of personality that we have, but also make sure that you know certain terms which were given by these psychologists. For example, when we talk about Adler, he gave the term of fictional finalism. So these particular terms that are very particular to certain psychologists should be clear, because there can be and there have been questions from these areas.
And also focus on some Indian psychoanalysts as well, like Kirendra Shekhar Bose, Sudhir Kakkar, Ashish Nandi, because they do ask questions which are Intimate Enemy, who was the author of Intimate Enemy. So it's Ashish Nandi. So you should have like certain idea, some idea. And I think even in the bachelors also, like we have done Kirendra Shekhar Bose and all. I mean, you should be familiar with the Indian psychoanalysts as well.
Right. Okay. Indian social psychoanalysts, you're not all that familiar. Alright, so there are certain prominent names that you'll find when you just, even if you type on Google Indian social psychoanalysts. So, for example, you'll find Sudhir Kakkar there, you'll find Ashish Nandi there, though he's not exactly a psychologist, but his.
Bhavyanshi, your network, I think something is wrong with your connection. Your voice is not all that clear.
So, you can take over, Spiti.
No, it was clear now when you said that you can take over.
Okay, so like I was responding to the fact that Shahid has said that he's not all that familiar with the Indian social, these Indian psychoanalysts, right? So let's just give certain names, and you just need to familiarize yourself with their prominent work, their books that they have written, because there can be questions on these things that, like Spiti had mentioned, Intimate Enemy is written by which particular person. So, Spiti, if you can mention certain names.
Yeah. So, Kirendra Shekhar Bose, he's also known as father of Indian analysis and all. So, Kirendra Shekhar Bose is one. Ashish Nandi is another. Sudhir Kakkar. So, these are certain, prominent figures in India. So, I mean, do familiarize yourself with them and their work.
Yeah, particularly the titles of their books. And, a general idea of who these people are. Very general idea, because not more than that is needed for your entrance exams.
Yeah.
Right. So, we are talking about psychoanalysis, right? So, Freud, again, is an important figure here as well. So, just familiarize yourself with Freud's theory, the various defense mechanisms that are there in psychoanalysis, not just the ones given by Freud, but in psychoanalysis as a whole. So, Anna Freud, for example, who came after him, she gave certain more defense mechanisms. So, familiarize yourself with all of them. Then also focus a bit on Erickson, particularly his identity theory. So just, you should know all these stages and basics about those stages, the 8 psychosocial stages by heart, that which comes when. These are quite important. They'll help you in, I think, almost any entrance exam you'll give for psychology. Right. In addition to that, again, I think these are the most prominent areas that you'll find for this.
Also, developmental psychology as well. Yeah.
But I guess Bhavyanshi did mention Piaget and Vygotsky. I mean, those are the prominent figures of developmental psychology, I guess. So she more or less, she has covered that also up. But also the physical development also you can focus on, because there have been questions from that area as well. Because these guys gave the whole theory, right? So apart from that, focus on that as well. Socio emotional Kohlberg's moral development, that is also there. Gilligan again in moral development. So yeah, developmental psychology is another area.
Actually, you know what? Hardcore organizational and hardcore clinical psychology. These are not the two areas which are included. So exclude them. But other than that, almost everything is there. For example, there can be questions, there would most likely be questions from learning theories, because this is an education course. Learning theories are quite important in this aspect. So you have questions, for example, about Ebbinghaus and his work. Then you'll have certain questions regarding the idea of leadership, basic questions regarding culture. So more or less, almost all areas of psychology are there except the hardcore clinical and hardcore OB. Then when you are when you're preparing for your stats part, be clear on what are parametric and non-parametric cells. Not cells, I'm sorry. Data set. Parametric tests and non-parametric tests. So what those are. Physiology is not that much of a focus. Like you can have certain questions which are very basic. You would have studied them anyway, but you don't have to go too deep into physiology.
Like in UGC net papers, they ask like really high level questions. No, herein the basics would be there. I mean, certain neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, and all these are basics. You should know what's their function is.
Right. So exactly, the whole paper is like that. Actually, if your basics are clear, you will very easily be able to go like have answers to most of the questions, like the basic emotion theories of emotions, Cannon-Barth theory, and
Schachter-Singer.
Yeah, Schachter-Singer. What are the basics theory? What is the gist of their theory? If you understand that and how they are different from each other, so there can be certain questions regarding this. So what most questions in JNU entrance exam are like that, they are asking you very basic things. If your basics are clear, well and good. And what they do to make it difficult is that they give you options which are quite similar, and it's difficult to identify which one is the correct option. So that's the focus area, that whatever you are reading, whatever you are studying, be very clear about each and every concept, so that even if they are trying to confuse you, you are able to select the correct answer.
Okay.
So same with your these theories, motivation theories, the basic theories like Maslow's theory, and your ERG theory, all these theories. So just the very basic theories. Any questions that you have?
Not really. Not really.
See, the advantage lies in the fact that you have a psychology background, so you can attempt the questions which are there in the paper like in a better manner, because you have that background. So you don't have to study everything from the very start. So that's the only advantage I can like say, if it's there. Other than that, no. And it's there for every discipline. Like for sociology, a person who has sociology background would have the same advantage. Negative marking. Till last time, as far as I can remember, there was no negative marking. But these things change a lot. So till now, there was no negative marking, but just when you are there taking the examination, just have a look at the instructions. Be very careful about that, because we have had this experience where there was supposed to be no negative marking in one of the entrance examinations, and on the day of the exam, when we read the instructions, there was. So these things are subject to change. Usually there is not. Any other question that you have regarding anything, like anything in these exams? Shahid, any other question? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just one thing I would like to add is, do go through the question paper, and whatever questions you're not able to answer, just read around that as well. That helps a lot. So, yeah. I think you mean the questions are repeated. They can be, like, I won't say they're repeated word to word, but the basic area from which they are framing the questions can be quite similar. And I think the thing is that NTA has only conducted
2 weeks
examinations prior to
Right.
this.
Because
we-
otherwise, for
yeah.
this course, there was a theoretical paper. This objective type thing. It came in 2019 only.
Yeah. So,
Otherwise, it was a subjective paper. But
Yeah.
you should know the areas, right?
and also I am like basing my guess. It's a guess of the net question papers that we have, because that's also conducted by NTA, and we have certain sample papers. So in those, the questions are repeated. So there might be chances, but I cannot say with certainty that they would be. But it's always good to know the questions better. So even if they are repeated or something similar is there along the same pattern, so you'll be able to answer it easily. Philosophy of science.
The
So-
basics.
Yeah. Section 1, it is based on philosophy of science, research methods, and statistics. So the basics of philosophy of science, like we said before as well, that the prominent people, like you have Comte, Plato, Durkheim, Foucault, Aristotle, all these people,
Karl Popper is
right,
also important.
and Kuhn also.
Thomas Kuhn,
Thomas
Karl
Kuhn.
Popper.
So these are some prominent figures. At least, know a little bit about them and their affiliation in terms of if they were nativist or empiricists, positivists. Like Auguste Comte was a positivist. So what do these terms mean?
Yeah.
What is meant by your ontology, epistemology?
This I think you would have done in
Masters.
Masters. If you're coming from North Campus, then definitely they would have done that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole paper on I think paradigms, right?
Yes, he has written yes.
So therein, I mean, even if you go through those notes now, then even that would work. But yeah, some prominent figures you should know.
Right. Like Durkheim was a functionalist when it comes to sociology. These their affiliations. What was their major contribution in terms of whatever discipline they are a part of?
Yeah. Like his suicide study was very famous. This we have done in psychology also during our masters. We had a whole paper. So I mean, you can guess, right?
And if you want to prepare for philosophy of science, you can go through some of the sociology this thing question papers, sections of the question paper which are pertaining to these thinkers. Not all 50 questions, but the particular questions where these people are mentioned and some prominent works or their area or their affiliation is mentioned. Anything else?
Okay.
Siti, if you want to add something, because I think we have covered almost everything that's there in
Everything,
the
yeah.
paper.
Yeah, I don't have until unless Shahid he doesn't have any question. I don't have, I think, anything to add. Do you need any help in certain area or something, Shahid? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Siti, you're audible. Okay,
Okay.
I'll share my email ID as well. If you want, you can email either of us or both of us, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, I think we have covered as much as we could regarding the question paper. If there are no specific questions, then uh, this is it from us.
Bhavya, your voice is breaking again. But I think she was mentioning that if you have any questions, we are happy to help. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I think we have covered up almost everything.
Yes. Both of us are currently enrolled in MPhil.
Yeah. But I think from this year they have scrapped
Yeah.
MPhil. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I guess because yeah, I don't
More or
think we
less,
have.
we have
Yeah.
mentioned everything. And if you want any help in certain area, you can, or if you have any question right now, we can you know, explain it in detail. Yeah, I mean, and even if you do not have it right now, you can like contact us. I mean, we have shared our email addresses, so you can
Yeah.
contact us then.
Yeah, so I don't think there are any questions currently. We have shared as much as we could right now. So yeah, this is it for this particular class.
Yeah. If you want us to I mean, to choose some area and to uh,
Yeah, but I think this is pretty much it. No, we can. Yeah, it depends on Shahid actually. If he has something, we're happy to help.
I think he has mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, then let's end the session.